Oh, hello there. Yes, well, good grief, I am so pleased that it is the weekend. Crawling towards that brief respite that is Christmas. Yes, my boss delighted me today by telling me that next year's autumn term is even longer than this one. Never mind, I'm sure I might live through it. Yes. Anyway, today I thought we'd have a couple of stories from the Telegraph, perhaps inevitably. The first one is one of those, the sub-editor has written that particular title, but it doesn't actually say what the article's about. And it's this one: Teachers pocket 31,000 tax-free cash for house deposits. The swines. Taxpayers foot £196 million funding bill as trainees flee the profession and the country. Yeah, they're fleeing in droves, which presumably is good for the migration thing. But what the actual article suggests very strongly is that the last government, the really good ones like Suella Braverman, come on to her, and Kemi and all the rest of it, actually were playing some very, very fast and loose games with taxpayers' cash. Quelle surprise, yes, as Margaret Thatcher would say. The problem with the Conservatives is they can never run out of your money. Or maybe she didn't say that, but that's what she should have meant anyway. But yes, what it actually transpires is that the government were basically giving out large amounts of money with no strings attached whatsoever. Now, you would have thought that giving people money to make them stay in a profession might actually involve a contract whereby they, stayed in the profession. But it seemed like nobody particularly wanted to do that. Why is that? Some of you might ask, and even if you haven't, I've asked it for you. Well, I'm going to tell you, perhaps inevitably. Well, the reason is that the government didn't really like the teacher training figures because they could never meet their targets. I don't think for the entire 15-year period, or 14-year period if you want to be really picky about it, that they actually met their teacher recruitment targets. So they were more than happy to throw quite a reasonable amount of money at people, the swines, having the money with no strings attached, with, no strings attached. Not, of course, that there was any problems with the last government in terms of them playing, silly buggers with statistics, but the actual article, quelle surprise, is subtly different from the headline, and even the article doesn't actually manage to state that the government was doing that, but I can tell you that for free. Actually, no, it's not free, you owe me a fiver. Anyway, on to today's glorious subject, Suella Braverman. Yes, her, yes. Couldn't even get onto the ballot to get leadership. Imagine not being as likeable as Priti Patel. That's something, isn't it? Anyway, do you remember when she was the saviour? Yeah, they do like to have them, don't they? Women of colour, saviours of the party. Oh, look, we've got a woman of colour as the leader. Yeah, that won't last long. Anyway, there's this one which she was written for, yet again, just another one of those let's have a go at the brown people we don't like ones, the whole hierarchy of racism. This one: a minority of Muslims are demanding special treatment for Islam. This should be refused. I totally agree. Shadowy new blasphemy laws are arising, allowed to blossom by institutional cowardice. Yes, institutional cowardice. It'd be awful, that, wouldn't it? Just giving in cravingly to a particular lobby. That might be important in a minute or so. But anyway, you can read this article for yourself down below. It's the usual kind of stuff. She manages to bring in quite a lot of racial stereotypes, which are quite negative for the Islamists, and suggests hints very strongly, of course, that those poor Christians are a bit of a persecuted minority. Oddly, doesn't mention other people, but hey, I'm going to, because if we're going to talk about Suella Braverman, who appears, as far as I can make out, because she swore an oath on it, to be a Buddhist, actually kind of does have her own hierarchy of people's religions. I'm going to point you to this, which is from the Jewish Chronicle. Police must understand that Jews do count, says Braverman. Yes, see, she doesn't even get the Suella bit. Yeah, you remember she was named after that famous 80s sitcom. What was it? That one about Suella. Yeah, that one. Home Secretary tells JC that the government is cracking down on anti-Semitism with a new task force. Yes, you see, because it was a real problem, anti-Semitism, when she was Home Secretary. Apparently still is. It's a big thing because the Jewish community must be specially protected. Anyway, I'm going to point you to this particular bit of that article because I think it's very telling. Part of the reason for her anger is that her husband, Rael, is Jewish. The Jewish community is our community, she said. What does she mean by our, I wonder? Well, she means proper and not the brown ones. Yes, my husband is a proud Jew and Zionist. Oh, really? It's going to make that statement. Being a Zionist, that does actually have some negative connotations amongst certain people who may or may not be Jewish. He's lived in Israel. We have close family members who serve in the IDF. My children will be raised with a strong sense of Jewish values and their Jewish heritage. We enjoy Friday night dinners at our mother-in-law's, which I think is a bit TMI personally, but they have close friends that have served in the IDF. And basically, on the back of her, fairly nasty little racist piece for the Telegraph, what I'd have to say for her is, what exactly would she, or how would she answer, not that any journalist would ever dare this to her, to the accusation that maybe what she's doing is in fact giving the Jewish community, especially when she was Home Secretary, special treatment, because it appears from a cursory glance that she has a hierarchy of religions, which sounds a bit kind of, like backdoor blasphemy to me. Don't know about you, but I really think it does. And what I'd like somebody in the media to say to her is, if the Jewish state is found complicit in genocide, which is the direction of travel, which undoubtedly people will finally arrive at in 5 or 6 years' time when it's too late to actually arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, that's if he's not banged up by his own people, of course, then what exactly will she say to people who say, these close family members of yours, did they take part in war crimes? Simple question. And if they did, what does she think would be the appropriate action? And does she think it's appropriate for us to take action against a genocidal state? Simple as. I mean, you can have a go at Muslim grooming gangs by all means. But I think, when you turn a blind eye to people simply because they are members of your family, then that's a kind of backdoor favouritism. In religious sense, it would be sort of a backdoor blasphemy thing because, I'm sorry, but the Jewish community does get special treatment in this country. There's a distinct hierarchy of racism. If you don't believe me, go to London and stand outside a Muslim school and then go and stand outside a Jewish school. Outside the Jewish school, you will notice they have government-paid security. Ask yourself why that is. Ask yourself exactly what the threat is. And the answer is, of course, that brown people are a threat, whereas Jewish people simply aren't. Unless, of course, you're in a different part of the world, in which case something else is at play, I think. But I would just love to see a journalist actually say that to her. What will be your response if members of your family who have served with the IDF, and incidentally, if they live in this country, how come we're not querying exactly where their loyalties lie? But what would you answer to the accusation that they should have action taken against them for war crimes? Anyway, on that bombshell, it being Saturday, it being the Sabbath, do have a lovely one.